You didn't find this message by chance. Something in you has grown tired of the noise, the endless spinning of wheels, the constant demand to do more, fix more, prove more, and somewhere between the inhale of effort and the exhale of exhaustion, you began to suspect the truth. Maybe creation was never supposed to feel this heavy. You've been taught that value equals struggle, that the universe rewards those who grind, who force, who never rest. Yet beneath that inherited program lies a deeper current, silent, exact, mercifully simple. It whispers, not shouts. The less resistance in your field, the faster reality responds. Imagine a tuning fork. Strike it once, and every matching frequency in the room hums in agreement. It doesn't plead. It doesn't chase. It simply resonates. And the world rearranges itself around that tone. That is how manifestation truly works, not through repetition or strain, but through resonance. Quantum physics hints at this. Beneath the visible world exists a quiet ocean of probability, pure potential waiting for direction. But that direction does not come from effort, it comes from coherence. When your signal steadies, when your inner noise softens, the wave collapses. Possibility becomes form. This is the simplicity principle. It is not laziness. It is precision. It is not avoidance. It is alignment. It is the art of doing less so that being can do more. You've spent lifetimes learning how to control. Tonight, you remember how to allow, because the moment you stop chasing outcomes and start stabilizing your signal, life no longer resists you. It begins to echo you. And this moment, this breath, right here, is your first collapse. The shift from noise to knowing. The instant you stop searching for the current and realize you are the current. The moment you remember you are the current, something begins to rearrange itself. That quiet awareness you touched in the last breath becomes a key one that unlocks not the doors of matter, but the perception that keeps them closed. From this stillness, we step into the subtle mechanics of how reality takes shape, how the unseen folds itself into the seen through what physicists call observation and mystics call attention. In the quantum model, a particle is not a fixed object. It is a possibility suspended in an ocean of probabilities, waiting not for command, but for coherence. The instant an observer looks, that field of maybe collapses into one clear yes. The wave becomes the particle. The unseen becomes the seen. But what few understand is that the observer isn't your physical eyes. It's your vibrational stance, your emotional clarity, your energetic tone. You collapse reality not through will, but through witnessing without interference. Think of it like sound emerging from silence. The silence doesn't strain to create tone. It becomes tone when vibration moves through it cleanly. Your consciousness operates the same way. When your mind is cluttered with overthinking, your attention splinters, and the field receives mixed frequencies. The collapse delays. Reality hesitates, waiting for you to decide which note you mean to play. The science, when stripped of jargon, is astonishingly simple. Every act of observation filters the infinite into form through resonance. You don't attract your future by begging it to appear. You select it by embodying the version of you that already exists there. And the universe, precise as light through a lens, magnifies whatever you stabilize. But here's where the paradox reveals its edge. Most people never allow the collapse because they confuse intensity with clarity. They focus harder, affirm louder, visualize longer, all in an effort to command the field, when the field is only listening for one thing, a coherent signal. You may notice how this mirrors the body's own intelligence. When you breathe deeply, your nervous system steadies. The heart and brain synchronize. The chaos of scattered thought begins to align into rhythm. That physiological coherence is not metaphorical, it is measurable. And as your inner oscillations harmonize, you broadcast a cleaner pattern into the quantum substrate. In that precision, the universe is not coerced, it's invited. Allowing isn't passive, it's participatory alignment. It's the act of becoming still enough to let probability organize itself around your certainty. You stop trying to make the world listen and instead become the frequency it cannot ignore. And yet, this simplicity unsettles the mind trained for control. It wants to intervene, to analyze, to add one more affirmation, one more ritual. But every addition creates friction. Every doubt disguised as diligence sends a tremor through your field. What if, instead, you practiced the science of allowing the art of collapsing reality through quiet precision? Picture a sheet of water trembling in a bowl. Each thought, each emotion, sends ripples across the surface. When you settle into presence, the surface stills, and suddenly reflection appears. The image is clear not because you forced it, but because you ceased to disturb it. That reflection is your world. So, consider this what-if observation is not about watching reality, but embodying readiness. What if allowing means trusting that the field already knows what you mean, and your only role is to maintain coherence long enough for it to crystallize? In that light, manifestation becomes a dance between awareness and surrender, the physics of participation without pressure. You are not here to push particles into place. You are here to let form meet frequency. And as that truth settles, the question evolves: if creation responds to stillness, then why does the human heart crave struggle? What force inside you mistakes resistance for safety and effort for purpose? To answer that, we must look not at the stars, but at nature itself, the original manual for effortless creation. The question lingers in the still air: if nature manifests without strain, why do we? The silence that follows that question is not empty, it's instructional. It carries the same intelligence that moves tides, orchestrates seasons, and turns a seed into a forest without a single moment of panic. Nature has never read a self-help book. The oak doesn't chant, "I am becoming." The river doesn't visualize its path. Yet everything in the natural world unfolds with flawless precision because it obeys a hidden symmetry, simplicity in motion. It acts without excess, guided by coherence. Consider the seed. Inside that tiny structure sleeps a complete blueprint, encoded in elegant economy. It does not struggle to become what it already contains. When soil, light, and stillness align, it simply responds. Its destiny was never achieved through effort. It was revealed through environment. That's manifestation in its purest form, the effortless translation of potential into presence. Human consciousness works the same way. Every desire and every vision you hold is a seed in the implicate field. But unlike the seed, you often flood your soil with noise, the chatter of timelines, the acid of doubt, the overwatering of should. Then you wonder why nothing grows. The field delays not to punish you, but to protect the coherence of your pattern. It waits for the vibration to stabilize before it blooms. Imagine how the cosmos might feel if it operated like our mind's galaxies, second-guessing their spin. Suns rehearsing their shine, rivers checking if they flow correctly. Chaos. And yet, within you, that's often what happens. Over-analysis replaces alignment. There is an old rhythm in you, one that remembers how to trust the unfolding. Watch the ocean. Each wave is a collapse of intention, pure in its expression. The wave doesn't fight the gravity that pulls it, nor the wind that shapes it. It collaborates with the forces that already exist. It knows resistance is waste. When you bring that same intelligence to your manifestations, You stop performing and start partnering. You no longer demand the field to move faster, you match its pace. You remember that simplicity is the highest form of sophistication, not because it does less, but because it does nothing unnecessary. In neuroscience, they call it efficiency of firing neurons that wire together smoothly because they've practiced a clear signal. In spirit, it's called surrender. In nature, it's called balance. In the quantum field, it's coherence. Different languages, one law. So, when you feel the impulse to chase pause, remember the seed. It does not rush the soil. It trusts timing because timing is encoded in its being. That same intelligence animates your breath, beats your heart, guides your evolution. And yet, simplicity is not idle. The tree does not sleep through its becoming. It expands, slowly, invisibly, deliberately. It drinks the rain and transforms light into food collaboration, not coercion. That is how your desires come alive through partnership with the environment of consciousness, not battle against it. You may begin to notice how every Buddhist teaching echoes this law. The Tao calls it Wu Wei, effortless action. Jesus framed it as consider the lilies. Science names it entropy's dance toward equilibrium. Different faces of one truth. The universe organizes itself through least resistance. Your task, then, is not to add more force, but to remove what obstructs natural flow, to stop adding friction where only stillness belongs, to become the space through which reality remembers its shape. Because when your field is clear, when your emotional atmosphere matches the purity of that seed awaiting light, the universe does what it's always done. It grows you into form. And yet, the human mind resists this softness. It craves control because control feels safe. To move beyond that, we must enter the labyrinth of effort itself, the loop that keeps you trapped in striving, while whispering that it's progress. You can feel it now, the pull of that loop, subtle yet familiar, the part of you that hears simplicity and grows restless, that whispers, if it's this easy, why hasn't it worked yet? That voice is not truth. It's the echo of an ancient survival program, the ego's addiction to struggle. For centuries, effort has been the altar where worth is proven. Entire cultures were built on the belief that sweat equals sanctity, that the harder you work, the more you deserve. But the quantum field does not reward exhaustion. It mirrors coherence. It reflects what is, not what tries to be. Effort, in its purest form, is noble, but in the spiritual realm, it often mutates into performance, a way to hide from stillness, because stillness is terrifying. It leaves no distraction between you and your power. The ego thrives on motion, on solving problems that don't exist, on chasing evidence of progress. It says, keep moving, you're almost there, but where is there when the destination is already within you? Picture a lion in tall grass. It does not chase every shadow, it waits. Breath slows, muscles align. The moment comes, it strikes once, and the world rearranges. That is precision. That is the frequency of simplicity. The lion's power does not come from motion, but from mastery over it. Yet the ego would rather you chase endlessly. It equates noise with importance. It thrives on the illusion of control, on the metrics of doing. When you meditate, it measures minutes. When you visualize, it critiques form. When you surrender, it asks, but what if nothing happens? Its survival depends on your mistrust of stillness, because stillness exposes its irrelevance. The effort loop begins innocently. You set an intention, feel inspired, and act. But when results lag, fear slithers in. You tighten your grip, double your effort, analyze outcomes, tweak techniques. Each adjustment seems logical, but energetically, you've shifted from creator to controller, from coherence to static, from trust to tension. The field receives that mixed frequency and reflects it perfectly uncertainty. Effort gives the illusion of progress, but in truth, it's repetition disguised as evolution. You're not advancing, you're orbiting the same outcome through different strategies. It's spiritual busywork, elegant procrastination. The ego loves this because motion feels like meaning. But simplicity dissolves this illusion. It whispers, stop trying to earn what you already are. To escape the loop, you must see its architecture. It's built from fear that ease means apathy, that stillness equals failure. Yet neuroplasticity shows us that repeated emotional states reshape the brain. When you practice rest without guilt, alignment without urgency, you rewire your nervous system to equate stillness with safety. From that safety, coherence blooms. You've been conditioned to believe that surrender is weakness, but surrender is precision in disguise. It's how electricity moves through copper, how sound travels through air. No resistance, no clutter, just pure conductivity. Ask yourself what drives your effort, the desire to express, or the fear to fail. The first expands, the second contracts. The first aligns you with creation, the second entangles you in survival. When you act from fear, you broadcast noise. When you act from clarity, the field answers instantly. This isn't about abandoning action. It's about refining its origin. Action born of trust feels light, clean, deliberate. It doesn't burn you, it channels you. The difference is vibration, not volume. So the next time the loop calls, inviting you into the old dance of overdoing, pause. Let silence interrupt the ritual. Feel the body exhale. Listen for that faint hum beneath the static, the sound of the field aligning. That's simplicity returning. Because the ego's reign ends not with argument, but with awareness. You don't defeat it. You outgrow it. You stop feeding it your attention, and it dissolves like mist in morning light. And once the noise fades, what remains is coherence. Emotion becomes the new compass, not thought. The heart becomes the observer. The next layer of manifestation reveals itself not in effort, but in feeling. When the ego's static begins to fade, what remains is not emptiness, it's resonance. The quiet hum that follows effort's collapse is the sound of your emotional field coming online. This is the point where the science of manifestation and the art of being finally meet coherence. You may have been taught that observation means watching, but in the quantum world, observation is vibration. The true observer isn't the mind peering outward, it's the heart broadcasting inward. Every feeling you sustain acts as a lens through which reality collapses. The cleaner that emotion, the clearer the reflection. Think of your body as an instrument in a grand symphony of fields. Your brain is the conductor, but the heart is the resonant chamber. Research in neurocardiology suggests that the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. This isn't poetic flourish, it's biophysical fact. The rhythm of your heart shapes the rhythm of your thoughts. When the two are synchronized, your entire electromagnetic field becomes coherent, ordered, luminous. And coherence is not only measurable, it's magnetic. Incoherence, however, distorts creation. When you affirm abundance but feel fear, when you visualize love but radiate unworthiness, the signal scatters. The field doesn't judge, it simply mirrors. The result is not punishment, it's feedback. Every delay is data, pointing you toward emotional precision. Imagine you're tuning an old radio dial. If you're even slightly off frequency, the music crackles. You twist harder, frustrated. But it's not effort that clarifies the sound. It's alignment, a subtle turn, a breath, and suddenly the static dissolves. That's what coherence feels like the moment the inner noise falls away and your emotional tone locks onto the truth of your desire. And here's the hidden key: coherence isn't created through control, it emerges through permission. It appears when you stop forcing emotional states and begin allowing them. Many people try to feel high vibe as if emotion were a checklist. But real coherence happens when you become honest. When you let your fear be seen, your grief be heard, your hope be felt not as obstacles, but as frequencies seeking integration. Once acknowledged, they harmonize. The HeartMath Institute found that when people generate emotions like gratitude or compassion for even 5 minutes, their heart rhythms become smooth and rhythmic. Brainwaves follow suit. The electromagnetic field surrounding the body grows stronger and more structured. That field extends several feet from you, interacting with everything around it, an energetic language written in feeling. So, when you sit to manifest, the question isn't, do I believe enough, but am I coherent enough? Because coherence is belief embodied, not imagined. It's the signature the universe reads instantly. Let's bring it closer. Think about a moment when you knew something before it happened, a text you felt before it arrived, a person you thought of who suddenly called. Those weren't coincidences, they were coherence events. Your field had already synchronized with the probability before your senses caught up. The emotion stabilized the timeline and reality followed your resonance. And yet, many mistake emotion for weakness. Society celebrates logic, analysis, and intellect cold precision. But in quantum mechanics, it's the observer's state that determines outcome. And emotion is the state of the field translated into biology. Feeling is frequency embodied. Here's the paradox: you cannot fake coherence. You can only relax into it. The more you chase high vibration, the more you reinforce its absence. But when you drop the chase, when you breathe into what's real and let the body settle, the wave steadies. And in that stillness, the next reality begins to form. Coherence is not a mood. It's the alignment of all your internal instruments playing one note of truth. When that happens, the universe doesn't deliberate, it echoes. So tonight, test this law not by doing more, but by softening more. Breathe through the chest, slow the mind, and let emotion flow like electricity through a clear wire. Feel the hum. That's coherence, your signature in the field. And from here, the next revelation emerges naturally, as it always does when simplicity builds upon itself. If coherence is the language of manifestation, then stillness is its grammar, the silent structure that shapes all creation. That hum of coherence still vibrates beneath your ribs, doesn't it? It's soft, yet unmistakable. From that resonance, we descend one layer deeper to stillness itself. Because emotion opens the portal, but stillness holds it open. Without stillness, coherence collapses back into noise. In physics, stillness isn't absence, it's balance. Every motion, every fluctuation in the quantum field oscillates around a central equilibrium point. That point isn't empty, it's pregnant with potential. It's the void before the Big Bang, the pause before sound, the invisible tension that allows form to emerge. Stillness is the womb of creation. You've glimpsed this in your own life. Think of those rare moments when time seemed to slow, when intuition cut through the noise, when clarity descended like a quiet wind. That wasn't coincidence, it was coherence meeting stillness. Your observer field stabilized so completely that probability had no choice but to condense into form. Quantum experiments echo this mystery. Physicist John Wheeler's delayed choice experiment suggested that even after a particle has traveled, the moment of observation can rewrite its past, meaning consciousness doesn't just respond to matter, It organizes time itself. When you observe from stillness rather than reaction, your awareness edits the script of reality. The past becomes clay, the future fluid, but this level of influence demands purity of presence. Reaction muddies the wave, observation clarifies it, and yet most people confuse the two. They call it manifestation, but what they're really doing is monitoring, checking, doubting, refreshing, searching for signs. That's not observation, it's surveillance. Surveillance carries the vibration of mistrust, and mistrust sends conflicting signals into the field. True observation feels different. It's weightless. It's a gaze without grasping, a still attention that says, I know it's already done. You can sense it in nature, the hawk hovering motionless on an updraft, wings steady, waiting for the invisible current to reveal what's next. Stillness is not doing nothing. It's doing exactly enough. Neuroscience supports this ancient knowing. During deep meditation, the brain's default mode network, the circuit of self-reference and rumination, quietly powers down. In its place, synchronization increases across distant brain regions. The mind stops scattering and starts integrating. What emerges is not dullness, but heightened perception. The silence becomes signal. In spiritual language, this is called the 0 point, the state where polarity resolves and potential blooms. It's the space where I want transforms into I am, not through affirmation, but through absorption. Stillness absorbs desire into being, and yet, stillness terrifies the untrained ego. It fears irrelevance in silence. That's why distraction has become the modern addiction, because stillness feels like surrender, and surrender threatens control. But control is only a story the mind tells to avoid intimacy with power. In truth, stillness is not emptiness, it's intimacy with source. When you enter stillness, you're not waiting for reality to change, you're aligning with the version where it already has. Your awareness becomes the bridge between timelines. From that bridge, creation no longer feels like effort. It feels like unfolding. Let's make it visceral. Picture a calm lake at dawn. Mist hovers, sunlight stretches across the surface, and in the mirror of that water, the sky recognizes itself. That's what your field becomes in stillness. A reflective interface where consciousness sees its own image and says, let there be. If coherence is sound, stillness is silence. And together they form the symphony of creation, the rhythm and the rest, the vibration and the void. Too much motion, and the song distorts. Too much silence, and it never begins. The art lies in knowing when to move and when to merge. So when you next sit to manifest, don't force emotion, don't chase visions, just arrive. Feel your breath settle. Let the body grow heavy, the mind spacious. From that still center, awareness becomes command, not through effort, but through being. And as that being stabilizes, a new kind of relationship with creation emerges. You stop seeking the future as something distant and begin selecting it as something intimate. That's the next frontier where simplicity matures into sovereignty. From the quiet gravity of stillness, a new awareness dawns that what you once chased has been orbiting you all along. The moment you stop seeking, you realize you were never outside the field. You were the field experiencing itself as a seeker. Seeking is the posture of lack. It says, I am not yet there. Selecting is the posture of sovereignty. It says, of all the infinite possibilities, I choose this one to experience. The difference is everything. The first vibrates as longing, the second as knowing. Imagine standing before a cosmic menu, endless timelines, shimmering like constellations. Every version of you already exists here, the fulfilled, the healed, the abundant, the peaceful. You don't summon them into being. you tune to their frequency. And as you stabilize that resonance, the hologram of reality rearranges around your new selection. This is not fantasy, it's mechanics. The quantum field does not create new matter, it reorganizes potential. Each thought, each emotion acts as a tuning fork. When coherence meets decision, probability collapses into preference. You are not attracting, you are aligning. But most people remain seekers because seeking feels safer than selecting. Selection implies commitment, and commitment carries risk. What if it doesn't work? So the ego keeps you in perpetual pursuit, collecting techniques, chasing synchronicities, declaring I'm getting closer, yet the field doesn't respond to closeness, it responds to clarity. There's a story in that tension, a story humanity has carried for eons, that worth must be earned. You seek because you secretly doubt your permission to receive. But the field does not operate by permission, it operates by resonance. It gives not what you deserve, but what you match. Look at light passing through a prism. Each color already exists within the beam, but only the angle of observation decides which wavelength emerges. Your consciousness is that prism. Change the angle and a different color, different timeline reveals itself. You didn't create new light, you simply allowed new perception. Selecting is not passive, it's active faith. It's the still yet decisive stance of a tuning fork that knows its pitch. It's when you stop asking the universe for proof and begin embodying the frequency of completion. You live from the answer, not toward it. To practice this, begin simply choose a reality and let your choices, small, physical, emotional, echo that version of you. Speak as that self, rest as that self, decide from that self, not pretending, but remembering. Because memory in the quantum field isn't bound to time, it's recognition of resonance. You might ask, what if I choose wrong? You can't. You can only choose unconsciously. When you choose from alignment, the selection harmonizes across dimensions, body, mind, emotion, field. The outer world reorganizes not by force, but by symmetry. Notice how life responds differently when you select rather than chase. Opportunities appear without your pursuit. People mirror your steadiness. Synchronicities cluster around your certainty like iron filings to a magnet. That's the field recognizing its own pattern. And here's the quiet irony: selection requires less energy than seeking, yet yields more transformation, because seeking scatters attention outward, while selecting concentrates power inward. Focus becomes gravity, and gravity bends reality. This is why simplicity matters. Complexity divides your signal. Simplicity refines it. You don't need multiple techniques, you need one clear stance. I am the selector. When you live this truth, even your thoughts slow down. You no longer bargain with possibility, you collaborate with it. And in that collaboration, effort dissolves completely. From here, a deeper current begins to move through you. Trust, the silent faith that your selection is already unfolding in the unseen. But trust isn't just emotional comfort, it's a frequency that organizes matter. To step into that power, we move next into the architecture of trust itself, the invisible magnet that turns selection into manifestation. Trust is the invisible bridge between your selection and its embodiment. Without it, the current falters. With it, the universe rushes to meet you. From the moment you choose, trust becomes the atmosphere through which creation travels, an unseen medium more powerful than any affirmation. You've felt this before, the difference between effort and ease, between forcing and flowing. When you trust, the field aligns like a compass returning north. When you doubt, it scatters, searching for coordinates that keep changing with every anxious thought. Trust is not a mood, it's a stabilizing frequency that tells the universe. The signal is steady. Proceed with collapse. In electromagnetism, A current only flows when resistance drops. The same principle governs your reality. Trust lowers resistance. Fear raises it. Simplicity, your truest state, emerges when fear dissolves back into faith. It's not blind belief. It's physics wearing the mask of grace. Imagine your consciousness as a magnet suspended above iron filings. Every emotion shifts its charge. Fear demagnetizes the field. Trust strengthens it. When you emit a coherent signal of faith, quiet, unwavering, the particles of probability begin to arrange into pattern. You don't force them, you stabilize them. The HeartMath researchers once measured how coherent trust changes the body's electromagnetic field. Heart rate, breath, and brain waves synchronized into a single rhythm, creating a measurable halo around the human form. The body became an antenna of alignment, radiating order, and order, in the language of the field, equals manifestation. Trust is the silence after the choice, the rest note that gives music its meaning. Most people try to fill that silence with effort, because waiting feels unbearable. They confuse momentum with movement, but in quantum law, the still interval is the movement. It's the phase where invisible particles rearrange themselves to match your declaration. To interfere is to interrupt assembly. So you wait, but not passively. You breathe in alignment, act from faith, walk as if gravity itself has been rewritten to favor your path. This isn't delusion, it's participation in resonance. When you move from trust, even uncertainty becomes fuel. Every delay becomes calibration. Trust also reprograms your nervous system. Each time you release control and witness synchronicity arise, your body learns safety and surrender. Neurochemically, cortisol drops. Dopamine rises not from chase, but from coherence. Your physiology begins to mirror the same laws. The quantum field obeys stability through simplicity. Think of a symphony again. When every instrument trusts the conductor, harmony unfolds effortlessly. If each musician panics, trying to lead, noise returns. The conductor, in this metaphor, is the field. You are both the instrument and the melody. Trust allows you to play in perfect time without rushing the beat. And yet, the ego resists. It whispers that trust is naivety, that faith is weakness, that control is safety. But control is only counterfeit security, rigid and fragile. Trust, on the other hand, is fluid and invincible. It bends without breaking, adjusts without collapsing. It is the state that nature itself abides by. The river trusts gravity, the tree trusts light, the sun trusts dawn. You may notice how trust alters perception. The same delay that once felt like rejection begins to reveal itself as orchestration. The coincidence that once seemed random becomes reassurance. The more you trust, the more evidence appears, not because the universe changes, but because your awareness tunes to the frequency where proof already existed. In that realization, effort becomes obsolete. Manifestation transitions from problem-solving to participation. You no longer ask if it's working, you know it is. The field mirrors your steadiness, not your striving. And yet, trust is not the end of the journey. It is the bridge leading to embodiment, the stage where simplicity no longer exists as philosophy but as physiology, where belief moves from idea into the nervous system itself. Because if the body cannot feel safe in simplicity, the mind will recreate struggle. To anchor this, we turn inward to the circuitry of the human vessel, where consciousness becomes biology and vibration becomes flesh. Trust has a texture, you can feel it in the body before you understand it in the mind. When trust deepens, breath slows, shoulders soften, the belly releases its constant hold on survival. And in that instant, the nervous system, the true bridge between consciousness and matter, remembers what it means to be safe in simplicity. Every manifestation, no matter how cosmic, is routed through this living circuitry. The heart, the gut, the vagus nerve all act as translators between vibration and biology. You can visualize all you want, but if the body is signaling threat, the field interprets that static as not yet. The collapse delays. The wave wavers. Embodiment is coherence made physical. It's when thought no longer hovers as abstraction but pulses through muscle, pulse, and bone as truth. It's the difference between saying I am abundant and feeling abundance as warmth in your chest, ease in your breath, safety in your cells. The first is wishful thought. The second is quantum command. Neuroscience hints at this hidden bridge. When you breathe deeply and intentionally, the parasympathetic nervous system activates, lowering resistance across every physiological channel. Heart rhythms smooth, brain waves synchronize. The mind stops predicting disaster and begins transmitting possibility. You literally become more conductive to creation. Think of your nervous system as the instrument through which the universe plays its music. Every tension is a string pulled too tight. Every surrender a return to perfect tuning. When you relax, the sound clears. When you rest in coherence, reality hears the melody and harmonizes. But embodiment doesn't mean sitting in perpetual serenity. It means being able to feel everything without losing your center. Simplicity doesn't erase complexity, it absorbs it, transforms it into clarity. That's the art of embodied manifestation, neutrality in motion. You might begin to notice how the old habits of striving are stored not in your thoughts, but in your fascia, your posture, your breath, the shoulders that brace for disappointment, the jaw that holds back unspoken fear, the shallow breath that whispers, I must be ready to fight. These are not flaws, they are echoes. Echoes of a world that taught you safety comes from control. To embody simplicity, you don't need to fight those patterns, you need to retrain them through gentleness. When you breathe into the belly and whisper internally, it's safe to receive. You're not performing affirmation, you're recalibrating the electric field of the heart. That pulse is what the quantum field recognizes, not words, but waveform. Here's the paradox that unites science and spirit. Your nervous system is both receiver and transmitter. It absorbs frequencies from the field and emits them back. When your inner current steadies, you become an amplifier for the timeline you've selected. The field doesn't decide for you, it harmonizes with you. Modern research into biofield science supports this ancient intuition. Coherent brain-heart patterns project measurable electromagnetic signals several feet beyond the skin. Other systems, people, events, even probability respond to those signals. Not metaphorically, but literally. You are broadcasting the frequency of your state of being at every moment, and when that broadcast is clear, simplicity becomes the natural operating system of life. No excess code, no overcompensation. Just precise signal, pure transmission. This is why embodiment is the final threshold before mastery. Because until the body feels safe in stillness, the mind will keep generating noise to feel in control. The ego calls it motivation, but it's really the nervous system's attempt to escape uncertainty. True mastery begins when you teach the body that uncertainty is not danger, it's creation still loading. So tonight, feel into your own circuitry. Notice where contraction hides. Send breath there. Soften the edges. You are not erasing effort. You're dissolving its residue. You are preparing your vessel to conduct reality's current without distortion. Because once simplicity is not just understood, but embodied, the game changes completely. You no longer work with the field. You are the field in motion. From that state, there is no more manifestation practice. There is only living as proof. And that brings us to the culmination of this journey, the moment where simplicity stops being an insight and becomes your identity, where you no longer practice alignment because you are alignment itself. And now, from the deep hum of your embodied coherence, the revelation completes its circle. What began as concept has become current. What you once reached for, you now radiate. Simplicity is no longer an idea hovering above you. It's the rhythm inside your breath. Look back for a moment, not with nostalgia, but with recognition. Every detour through effort, every spiral of overthinking, every collapse of faith, it all served one purpose: to exhaust every illusion but the truth. The truth that creation has never been about addition, but subtraction, removing noise until only essence remains. This is the living simplicity principle. It doesn't require chanting or striving, only remembrance. It asks you to wake each day not with the question, "How do I make it happen?" but with the knowing, "How do I stay clear enough to let it?" To live this way is to move as a tuning fork in human form, vibrating coherence into the atmosphere around you. The field no longer feels distant or abstract. It moves through your gestures, your words, your stillness. You speak less from desire, more from certainty. You plan less, yet everything arrives with uncanny precision. The universe seems faster, but really it's your resistance that has slowed to zero. You may notice subtle shifts first, the right call at the right moment, the serendipitous timing that bends logic. But soon it's deeper relationships aligning effortlessly, opportunities matching your internal tone, peace no longer dependent on outcome. That's not luck. That's physics reorganized through presence. In simplicity, reality stops testing you and starts mirroring you. The line between the inner and outer dissolves. Even challenges arrive cleaner, sharper, more purposeful feedback, not punishment. You begin to see life as code executing your state of being in real time. When you're coherent, the code runs smooth. This state doesn't mean perfection. It means transparency, no distortion between intention and expression. You'll still feel human waves of emotion, but they'll move through rather than cling. You'll still act, but action will rise organically from clarity, not panic. You'll still dream, but your dreams will be dialogues, not demands. And here lies the final paradox. When you master simplicity, you don't escape complexity, you orchestrate it. Complexity becomes your instrument, not your cage. You conduct the symphony instead of drowning in it. To live as simplicity is to trust that the entire field bends toward coherence, that even apparent chaos is intelligence reorganizing. You no longer fear the unknown, you collaborate with it. You no longer chase alignment. You are alignment expressing itself as a human lifetime. Close your eyes. Feel that pulse again, the subtle electricity behind your ribs. That is the same current moving through galaxies, stars, cells, thoughts. There's no separation, only modulation. And when you stay clear enough to sense it, simplicity becomes not just your practice, but your proof. So when you step from this moment into the ordinary rhythms of your day, carry that clarity with you. Let each breath remind you that the universe never required effort, only resonance. Let every choice become a reflection of ease, every pause a portal, every silence a statement. Because this calm precision, this lucid stillness is what creation has been waiting for. The observer has remembered its role. The wave has chosen its form. The field has heard your frequency, and it is already responding. You have become the simplicity you once sought. You have become the signal itself. The echo of that final line still hums in the air. You can almost feel the space around you vibrating with recognition, soft, steady, clear. From here, we don't ascend higher, we descend deeper, into quiet, into presence, into the part of you that no longer needs to prove it knows. Breathe, that's all that's left. You've walked through the labyrinth of effort and emerged into the clearing of coherence. You've seen that simplicity is not the opposite of power, it's the refinement of it. When you let go of excess, the essential emerges. When you stop trying to control, life begins to coordinate. Look back at the metaphors that have guided you: the seed, the lake, the tuning fork, the lion in stillness. They weren't images, they were instructions. They were reminders that manifestation isn't something you build, it's something you become aware of. The field is already responding, right now, to the rhythm of your breath and the quality of your emotion. You don't have to force that rhythm. Just maintain it, like a flame sheltered from wind. Trust that every inhale gathers the universe toward you, and every exhale releases resistance back into the void. This is how the awakened live, not in permanent serenity, but in continual return. Each moment, a new opportunity to soften back into alignment, to select clarity again, to let stillness lead. If you ever forget, remember the image of the calm lake. The surface doesn't create reflections, it allows them. You don't manifest by demanding light, you reveal it by being clear enough to let it through. So take one last slow breath and let the simplicity principle settle in your bones. You are no longer a seeker, nor even a selector. You are the reflection itself, the universe seeing itself clearly through human eyes. From here, do nothing extraordinary. Walk, breathe, notice. Let life meet you halfway. Speak less from hope and more from harmony. Every sound you make carries the frequency of the field. Every silence its echo. Simplicity was never a technique, it was the language of creation all along. And now you are fluent.